From a light perspective, this one is a little bit tricky. So if you're new to plants, this one's going to take a little bit more attention because the amount of light it gets will directly impact. Hi, I'm Kim from the Tye-Dyed plant team, and today we're going to be talking about the Spaphyllium wallisii, which we call the peace lily. I cannot pronounce those botanical names. It's really a very pretty plant, and it's pretty for a couple reasons. Number one, it has nice green, dark leaves, and these are kind of glossy, although you got to be careful as a house plant because they do have a tendency to hold dust. So every once in a while, a nice damp cloth, just go ahead and rub over and it will help with that glossy deep green. The deep green here also helps offset the color of the flower that comes out of it. And these will flower occasionally as we get closer to the springtime, and the flower is really a brilliant white. Now these are some small peace lilies that we have here. So the little canopy that comes over here that almost looks like a jack in a pulpit is also a very, very brilliant white. And this one is a little bit toward the end of its blooming period, but I still wanted to show you how you have that contrast between the really, really bright white of the flower and the deep green of the leaves that go around it. From a watering perspective, this one's a little tricky. It likes to have water about, maybe halfway down 2 knuckles, but it's a little bit better if you're going to go ahead and use a hydrometer to make sure you don't get it too wet. It could be susceptible to root rot. Like some of our plants that what we call butt chuck like to be sitting in some water where it just sucks up that water through the roots. This is not one of those. So you don't want to have it sitting in any kind of water. If you have a saucer underneath, a drainage tray, once you water, if there's any leftover water in that saucer, you need to go ahead and get rid of that so that we don't get too much water here. From a soil perspective, like most of our plants, it likes well-drained soil, a good potting soil mixed with perlite. And I've talked about perlite a lot, and some of you might know exactly what I'm talking about, but I've not really shown it to you. Perlite is really just a very light white, almost looks like the peanuts that you might get in some packing materials, although it's not spongy. It's really quite hard, and it's also, as you can see, a bit dusty. So when you're going to use the perlite, use it sparingly. Generally speaking, depending upon the plant, we're not going to do more than a 50-50 mix. But the perlite is great for increasing drainage. It just takes up space in your soil and allows the water to go through more quickly. Many plants will thrive with perlite. Some of your plants, especially outdoor plants that you might be putting in the ground, you don't need to worry about that because you have more of your natural drainage. But that's the perlite when we talk about adding perlite to your soil. From a light perspective, this one is a little bit tricky. So if you're new to plants, this one's going to take a little bit more attention because the amount of light it gets will directly impact the flowers that you have. If you have too much light, your flowers are going to come up and they're going to stay from a light to a darker green. They're not going to get to that brilliant white. And if you don't have enough light, then you're just going to have fewer flowers. So there's a gentle balance there. East-facing window generally works best. It'll take a little bit of bright light, but it does better in lower light, but not shade. So this is one of those plants where from a light perspective, you're probably going to be experimenting to get the right bloom as it comes out. If you get into an area where you have too much light, and we don't have a good example here, which is a good thing, you'll start to get browning of your tips. The browning of your tips, you can move it to an area where you don't have much light, and then we'll also transition that into humidity. This does like humidity. So if you see any brown on the tips of your leaves, number one, you can gently cut those off with the scissor, keeping the shape of the leaf. And then secondly, go ahead and mist. Go ahead and use a humidifier, or as we've said before, that tray with some pebbles in it and a bit of water, we'll see some evaporation, especially here in the winter time when your homes happen to be a little bit drier. We will probably, with some of the plants where we have some water with plants sitting in them, see 1.5 to 2 inches of evaporation over the course of a week. So dry air in that pebble tray will really help, or go ahead and use your humidifier. This is a plant that generally grows along the forest floor, so that's why it likes its humidity, and that's just a great thing for it. From a propagation point of view, this one is relatively easy to propagate. Here's an example where you can actually see we've got a couple plants going on here. So you could go ahead and pull this out and very gently go ahead and split the plant. Now when we're splitting a plant, you can do it one of two ways. You can just go ahead and very gently with your fingers go ahead and pull it apart. But if it's not really coming apart that way, sometimes it'll do that naturally. It's really easy. But if it seems to be sticking a little bit, get yourself a very, very sharp knife and go ahead and cut. You don't want to rip it, you don't want to tear it, and just go ahead and split it. This one here would probably split into 2 or 3 of the plants, and it's not hard to get yourself a little farm going of your peace lilies. Now when you go ahead and plant it, again, go ahead, you're using your well-drained soil, a little bit of perlite in there, and because these are a little bit taller, as you put your soil in there, just go ahead and pack it in a little bit. And I say that because the taller they get, the more top-heavy they get, and they have a tendency to fall over. So you just need to be careful with that. Another thing not to confuse with talling over is if your leaves start to wilt, they're not falling over, they're just telling you, hey, getting thirsty here, need a little bit more water. So that will be a signifier that it's time for water. It's a toxic plant, so keep that in mind. We don't generally put these in our terrariums or our vivariums. It's more of a house plant. So cats, dogs, kids, just go ahead and make sure you keep that away. Finally, a little bit susceptible to pests. Mealies, spider mites, and sometimes the aphids. Spider mites will get in the crook of a plant. You'll see a little bit of a web, spider web, and as you look closely, you'll see these tiny, tiny, tiny white dots moving around. Those are your spider mites. The mealies, I want to talk about those for just a second here, but that can be a little bit confusing. The mealies are tiny, tiny little white, look like pieces of cotton, and when you touch them, they're a little sticky. As we get a larger flower, and it gets that nice white canopy, as it matures, it will start to drop pieces of pollen, which will trick you. You'll look at it and say, oh my God, we got mealybugs all over the place. It's not mealies, just give it a gentle blow. If it moves around, it's pollen, and you can take a small paintbrush or a little air canister and just go ahead and blow that off. You don't have to, you can just leave it there. It's okay, it's not gonna do any harm. But as they get a little bit more mature, they're going to go ahead and drop that pollen, and especially when it gets on the green leaves, you're gonna think you might have a pest problem. You don't, it's just pollen. You can tell by just blowing on it. If it blows away, you're good to go. If it doesn't, touch it with a toothpick. If it's a little bit sticky, you've got a mealybug. So as I talk about the pests, one of the things that we have here at the store that will help you, this is a good universal pest care. It's called neem oil, and it will take care of not only many pests, but some of those biological problems that you might get, like scale or things along that line. Just go ahead and follow your instructions. Generally speaking, you might want to do this when it's a little bit darker as you get into the evening, but neem oil will take care of those spider mites, those aphids, those mealybugs, and some of the other things that just drive you crazy, especially in the winter time when things are inside and we just happen to have a little bit more of a pest problem than we do in the spring and summer when we put things outside. Fertilization, springtime, summer, winter, even inside plants like to rest a little bit. So if you're going to do any fertilization, wait until the weather starts to warm and we get into spring and summer. So a lot of information on a great little plant, our peace lily plant of the week here at Tye-Dyed Iguana.